Get out! The king's love of the crown has consumed him.
David, the upcoming animated movie, is being talked about as a visually rich and emotionally powerful project that blends epic storytelling with intimate character-driven moments. The film is envisioned as a fresh animated interpretation of a legendary figure, presented in a way that feels accessible to modern audiences while still carrying the weight of an ancient, meaningful story. Rather than treating its subject as distant or purely symbolic, the movie aims to humanize David, focusing on his inner struggles, doubts, and growth. The tone is described as dramatic, inspirational, and deeply emotional, balancing large-scale spectacle with quiet, reflective moments that allow viewers to connect with the character on a personal level. At its heart, David is imagined as a story about courage, faith, and identity. The movie explores how an ordinary young individual is shaped by extraordinary circumstances, emphasizing that true strength does not come from physical power alone, but from conviction, resilience, and moral clarity. The narrative frames David not as a flawless hero, but as someone who questions himself, feels fear, and wrestles with responsibility. This approach gives the story a universal appeal, making it relatable even to audiences unfamiliar with the legendary background of the character. The animated world of the movie is described as expansive and immersive, inspired by ancient landscapes and cultures but stylized with a modern cinematic sensibility. Rolling deserts, towering cities, quiet villages, and vast battlefields form the backdrop of the story. The animation style is imagined as detailed and expressive, with a strong focus on facial expressions and body language to convey emotion. Light and shadow play an important role, visually reflecting the internal conflicts faced by the characters as well as the larger moral themes of the story. Casting updates suggest that the voice cast has been chosen carefully to bring emotional authenticity to the characters. The voice of David is portrayed by an actor known for conveying vulnerability and determination, allowing the character to feel young, uncertain, yet quietly brave. His performance emphasizes subtle emotional shifts, capturing moments of fear, hope, and resolve without exaggeration. This helps ground the character, making his journey feel earned rather than mythical from the outset. Supporting characters add depth and complexity to the story. Figures representing authority, tradition, and power are voiced with commanding presence, contrasting sharply with David's humility. Other characters serve as emotional anchors, offering guidance, doubt, or opposition at different points in the narrative. Each voice performance is imagined to contribute to the layered storytelling, ensuring that even secondary characters feel purposeful and memorable rather than symbolic or one-dimensional. The plot begins by introducing David in a simple, grounded environment, far removed from greatness. He is shown living a quiet life, defined by routine and modest responsibilities, with little indication of the destiny that awaits him. These early moments focus on character rather than action, allowing audiences to understand David's values, fears, and sense of belonging. The film takes its time establishing this foundation, making the eventual shift toward conflict feel meaningful and impactful. As the story progresses, external pressures begin to challenge David's peaceful existence. Political tension, looming threats, and internal divisions within the larger world start to surface. The movie gradually expands its scope, moving from personal moments to wider conflicts that affect entire communities. Through this progression, David is repeatedly placed in situations that test his courage and beliefs, forcing him to make difficult choices long before he feels ready to do so. One of the central narrative threads involves David's struggle with self-doubt. Despite signs of potential and encouragement from certain figures, he constantly questions whether he is capable of rising to the challenges placed before him. The film portrays this internal conflict with sensitivity, using quiet scenes, reflective dialogue, and visual symbolism to represent his fears. These moments of hesitation are crucial to the story, reinforcing the idea that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. As conflict escalates, the movie introduces its primary antagonist, a figure who represents overwhelming power and intimidation. This character is portrayed not merely as a physical threat, but as a psychological one, embodying the fear and hopelessness faced by those around him. The contrast between this antagonist and David is stark, highlighting differences in size, strength, and status. Rather than rushing toward confrontation, the film builds tension slowly, allowing the inevitability of their clash to loom over the narrative. Midway through the story, David's journey shifts from observation to action. Circumstances force him to step forward, not because he seeks glory, but because he feels morally compelled to act. This transition marks a turning point in the movie as David begins to accept responsibility even while doubting his readiness. The animation and music during these moments are imagined to emphasize emotional intensity, underscoring the weight of his decisions. The movie also explores themes of leadership and faith, presenting them as burdens rather than rewards. David is shown grappling with the expectations placed upon him by others, as well as the pressure to live up to an image he does not fully understand. These themes are handled with nuance, avoiding simplistic messaging and instead focusing on the complexity of belief, trust, and accountability. The story suggests that leadership emerges through service and sacrifice rather than dominance. As the narrative moves toward its climax, the tension between destiny and choice becomes increasingly prominent. David is faced with moments where retreat would be understandable, yet he continues forward, driven by a growing sense of purpose. The build-up to the central confrontation is imagined as emotionally charged rather than action-heavy, using silence, pacing, and close-up visuals to heighten anticipation. This approach keeps the focus on character and meaning rather than spectacle alone. The climactic sequence itself is portrayed as both thrilling and symbolic. While the physical confrontation carries high stakes, the emotional and thematic weight of the moment is equally important. The movie emphasizes that the outcome is shaped not by brute force but by conviction, intelligence, and faith. This moment serves as the culmination of David's internal journey, marking his transformation from uncertainty to resolve. Following the climax, the film does not rush to resolution. Instead, it takes time to explore the aftermath of David's actions, showing how victory brings new responsibilities rather than simple celebration. The emotional impact of what has occurred lingers, and David is shown reflecting on how his life has irrevocably changed. These quieter moments reinforce the movie's commitment to character development and emotional realism. The ending of David is imagined as reflective and hopeful rather than triumphant. It leaves audiences with a sense of continuity, suggesting that while one challenge has been overcome, the journey itself is far from complete. The film closes on imagery that emphasizes growth, faith, and the enduring impact of courageous choices. Rather than offering a neatly wrapped conclusion, it invites viewers to consider the ongoing nature of personal and moral development. Release date discussions around the animated movie suggest that it is being positioned as a major cinematic event, appealing to families as well as older audiences drawn to meaningful storytelling. The timing appears carefully chosen to highlight the film's inspirational themes and visual grandeur, allowing it to stand out among other animated releases. There is confidence that its emotional depth and universal message will give it lasting appeal beyond its initial release window. Trailer information has generated strong interest due to its balance of scale and intimacy. Previews are described as showcasing sweeping landscapes, expressive character animation, and hints of epic conflict while avoiding full story reveals. Music plays a central role in the trailer, building emotion and anticipation without relying heavily on dialogue. The focus remains on mood, character, and the promise of a powerful journey. Visually, the movie is expected to push animation quality through detailed environments, fluid movement, and carefully crafted lighting. The color palette shifts throughout the film to reflect emotional changes, moving from softer, muted tones in the beginning to richer, more dramatic hues as the story intensifies. This visual storytelling complements the narrative, reinforcing themes without the need for explicit explanation. Overall, David is shaping up to be an animated movie that combines epic storytelling with emotional intimacy. The imagined updates and discussions surrounding the project suggest a film that respects its audience, offering depth, inspiration, and visual beauty in equal measure. By focusing on character, faith, and the power of courage in the face of doubt, the movie aims to deliver an experience that resonates across ages and cultures. If executed as envisioned, David has the potential to stand as a memorable animated film that inspires reflection, emotion, and a renewed appreciation for stories of inner strength and moral conviction.